And I believe that we're going to head over to that right now.
Union President. The Union President acts as the main spokesperson for USU, chairs the Union's Board of Trustees, and is responsible for the reputation, leadership, and direction of USU as a democratic organisation. They work closely with the university's Vice-Chancellor and staff team, as well as key contacts in the City of York and, most importantly, students.
Welcome back to Candidate Interview Night. We're now here with the final interview of the night. I'm joined by presidential candidate Pierrick Roger, and I'm Olly Hilton. I'll be interviewing him today. So, Pierrick, in your tenure as president, it would be fair to say that for many students, life has not necessarily dramatically improved. There are still problems with housing. Returners accommodation completely fell through, obviously, in January. There are several problems with costs as well. So why would students want to vote for you for a second term?
I think I've demonstrated that I have an ability to make a lot of noise and to actually get things done. On all of those points, we've made really big progress. Obviously, things are getting worse, but I think we've made massive efforts in dampening things for students.
Okay, if you say things are getting worse, it's good that you can recognise that, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
But in your manifesto, you've listed several different ways of combating these things getting worse. In elections prior to this one, we've seen similar schemes to your Unipol codes and your Rate My Landlord initiative, such as with your predecessor, Patrick O'Donnell.
Yeah.
And yet we still do have an issue with poor quality accommodation. So why do you think such schemes will work this time if they haven't worked before?
They've worked elsewhere. So Unipol's been piloted in Leeds, for example. They've had massive success. I don't know if you know about, for example, Leeds had massive housing issues, the same we're having here this year. Unipol came in as a new player about, I want to say, 10 years ago, and massively changed things because they're obviously a charity, they're not in it for the profit. Accreditation schemes are rolled out first, followed by Rate My Landlord, which is quite an efficient way of getting students rating poor quality housing, and then obviously they start running their own agency, which takes the burden off of USU itself, having to provide that themselves.
But even if it has worked elsewhere in other cities, as I say, it hasn't worked in York before, and that's obviously there's a different council in York.
Yeah, I mean, the one reason it hasn't worked in because it's not been introduced ever. Patrick O'Donnell had a manifesto point on an accreditation scheme which he never introduced. Unipol's on the cards. We've got university backing. We haven't got council backing yet, but I'm confident we can get it. We've met with Unipol literally a week ago, and they're really confident that they can introduce this in York.
Okay. I'm interested in, as well, you've not mentioned semesterisation at all in your manifesto, which will obviously be a huge change in student life for everyone. How do you respond to that? And how will your role change alongside this change with the semesterisation coming in?
Semesterisation, I'm not going to lie, is going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess, and it's a mess that we've seen coming, basically. And it's a mess that we've inherited because it's 4 years old now that decision's been made. We need to respond by dampening things. We can't go any other way. If we want to fight this off, we can, but the effects there's going to be no effect to any campaign that comes on semesterisation because the decision's been made and it's already happening. We need to work on things like supporting students through new periods of assessments, trying to get them to understand what's happening, especially international students who are booking flights home, things like that. The focus needs to be on supporting students through the change rather than trying to fight back.
How do you plan on supporting these students through this change? As you say, you admit that it is a big change and it's going to be a big mess, as you say.
Yeah.
How do you plan on supporting those students?
Well, first step is information. I don't know if you've kind of gone about trying to find this information on university web pages. It's not available. People don't know what they're going into next year. The first step is getting that information to students so that it's available to them. They know, what dates semesters start on, when exams are, when assessments are, and so that they have that information available. The second step is obviously seeing this change through properly, and we'd rely on the academic officer, but also the network of academic reps they have available to try to understand how assessments are going to be working throughout this semesterization periods. We've got about 300 of them, so they'd be able to provide that kind of intelligence. And then part 3 would be actually adapting our activities to that. So things like, everything's based off the termly modules. in UCU as well, but at the university too. We need to ensure that all activities fit within that model. And if they can't, how best we can adapt to that. I'm thinking about well-being provisions as well.
Okay, well, moving through your manifesto, you say that you want to secure a rent support package worth £1 million plus. It goes without saying that is a bold claim. That's a lot of money. How do you plan to do that?
So £400,000 of that comes from current grant schemes that are available, but that students aren't able to access. So £240,000, that's from the Household Energy grant scheme that is unspent. It's sitting in the university unused. Similarly, we've got £160,000 left in grant schemes at the university, various sorts of them that aren't being used. I'm proposing we put that to good use for rent schemes so that it's available to everyone. The remaining £600,000 is withheld funds. So I don't know if you're aware about strikes ongoing right now. All of that pay essentially for lecturers that are on strike is withheld by the uni, and I think personally it shouldn't go back into the university's pocket. It should go back into in students' £150,000 that we've already secured, and I'm confident we can get those £600,000 into students' pockets.
Okay. Another bold claim that you've made is securing more accommodation on campus. That's obviously a big part of your manifesto. You say you'll ensure plans are made for this. I think historically it's been a difficult thing to get sorted. I think we've had lots of people claim they're going to do that, and it hasn't been done. Obviously, with all the problems coming up with returners accommodation and all sorts going on at the moment, how do you plan on ensuring plans are made for accommodation being sorted? And do you think that by the end of your next tenure, if you're elected, more accommodation will have been built or will be in the works to be being built?
So being built, no, because it takes a lot longer than a year to build things. Where the 150,000 rooms, 1,500 rooms on campus comes from. This is the university strategy, so it's already in place. What we don't want to repeat is Anne Lister and David Cato, in that they're luxury accommodation, essentially. We need those 1,500 rooms to be good quality, affordable, so that most students can take advantage of those rooms, not just the richest among us.
Okay, that's fair enough. Your policies on trans inclusivity interest me as well. So what's your experience with trans discrimination on campus, and how exactly will you use your position to combat it?
It's not discrimination per se. No one in UC sports is actively discriminating against trans and non-binary students. What we need to work towards is a system where those trans students can participate. Right now, a lot of our sports are gendered, and that means that trans students just don't know where to go, and the guidance is not clear, especially on Bucks level. We need to work. I don't know what the strategy will be, but we need to have a system in place that allows students to navigate that kind of environment, especially in terms of gender. I'm thinking other things as well as like disability, but I think trans is probably the most prominent one. We need a plan. We don't have one currently, but we need one. That's all I know.
How quickly do you plan on making this plan if you're elected?
Well, Frankie is currently working on a plan, which she's going to work through the summer term. That's what she's told me. And I'm hoping that the next sports president will take that up as well. I don't see any reason why anyone would object to that. But I want to support that work. I'm a really good bylaw writer, so if I can help in writing in any way I can, I will.
Okay, finally, we've not got much time left, but one thing I want to cover is your manifesto points on the tier scooters being free between campuses. Obviously, that used to be the case. It isn't anymore. How do you plan on getting that sorted again if tier have clearly seen that there's an opportunity to make money from students going between campuses?
Well, the one reason actually tier will be on board with this is because they're actually losing money on the tier scooters right now. It used to be that they were free between campuses, and so people took the scooters beyond that and paid the fee. Right now, tier scooters are being underutilized because they aren't free between campuses. So I'm expecting that they'd be on board with making that change happen again.
Okay, and but you've also said about the roads going between campuses not being very good, having potholes and stuff. Do you not think that should be a problem that you saw before getting the scooters?
I mean, definitely. I mean, tier scooters are usually used on the main road, which is quite good quality. I'm talking about bicycle lanes on campus. They're horrendous right now, and there are safety risks as well. So my plan would be to talk to estates, try to get an audit plan on the cards, because right now they essentially don't know what's going on.
Thanks, Pierrick. Well, that has been me, Ollie, interviewing Pierrick for President. We're going to cut to the green room now for our outro.
We're in the green room.